Good morning,
Good
Chiara.
morning.
How are you today?
I
And
am
we are
very well.
excited. Yeah, we are excited to start our new session for Coffee with the Coach and having you on board here. So go ahead and introduce yourself and let everybody know about you. And I know you are in California, right?
Yes, well, thank you, Dr. Milo, for having me here today. I'm very, very excited to be a part of the Coffee with a Coach and to share information and to be able to speak to you as well, because I know you have a wonderful program and offering. So my name is Chiara Marrapodi, and as Dr. Milu said, I am based in San Diego, California. I'm a life and spiritual holistic coach. I teach people about stress and trauma and how to move past stress and trauma, so into recovery. I'm also a connection specialist, so I help people to reconnect with their true purpose and their truth. I use many different techniques. And I'm also an animal well-being and connection specialist too. So I wear many hats. I've published some research. I love to present. I'm a public speaker. So that's just a little bit about me.
Fantastic. Very nice to have you here. And I know we have discussed about topics, and for the first one, we will make it dynamic. How about that?
Yes, let's.
Yeah, because you have some interesting things you are doing, and Vino and Vision, we are doing some fabulous thing as well. So that would be a great thing to connect with each other and kind of grow our network, right? So at the same time, as you know, that Vino and Vision just announced that Vino and Vision Local, which is we've been in virtual world for a long time. Now we are going to be presenting ourselves in local market. As you know, that we have affiliates and coaches all over the country, including UK, and we want to now grow our network and meet face to face. So wherever we are, so we can meet face to face on a regular basis and establish the relationship we want to build among coaches, among business owners, among professionals, entrepreneurs, and everybody out there who want to grow their network and build their professional connection and become successful in life. And we want to help them.
Yes. Congratulations. That's wonderful. I do find that, the work that you're doing really does support people to grow within themselves. I mean, that's what we're here to do, is to support each other at the end of the day,
Mhm.
to help each other to thrive and flourish and to find our true calling, our purpose. And I don't think there's just one purpose. I think we often have several. We kind of get stuck thinking we have one road and one purpose, but I do feel that we have several as we iterate through life. So I guess we started a discussion without starting a discussion.
Yes, that's a fantastic way of doing, because the dynamic nature of the discussion is we don't have to be prepared for it, right? So we
Right.
we, we evolve as we do. And in human relationship, this is one of the key thing that we understand is builds over time, right? It don't happen just instantly, but it builds over time. And establishing that relationship and knowing the unknown is
Yes.
the key to all this. Like whoever out there and listening to us right now, and we may be, it may be a remote village in Africa, or a remote village in India, or it may be a very thriving city on Hong Kong, or wherever people are, we are connecting, and we just have to build that relationship with each other. And by doing so, we establish a global network of people, human being connecting with each other. And I think for the coaches, especially life coaches, we have a bigger role to play globally. Do you agree with that, Chiara?
I agree. I mean, I want to backtrack a little bit to some of the things that you touched on. I rarely, connection is my piece. So I like to connect dots and frameworks and connect people with themselves and each other, because I feel as life coaches, our role is really to allow people the space, the safe space, to begin to find parts of themselves that perhaps are fragmented or they weren't connected to. And by doing that internally, individually, inevitably it is an inward microcosm, outward macrocosm experience. So like you said, we will connect people with each other worldwide, make connections internally that then move outwards. So it really is a work of love. It truly
Yes.
is a work of love with ourselves and with others and with the craft itself, with the work and how it dynamically and organically unfolds, because each session is an unfoldment. And if we come from the heart, the unfoldment happens naturally. So this is what I was moving through in the rhythm of what we were saying, because everything that we do is a rhythm and a cycle. So that, yes, we do support people to network and
Yes.
reach out with each other.
And I like what you mentioned about love, right? So it's come from within. It's come from the heart and the connecting globally, right? So what we learned from COVID COVID is not a preventer. It's actually enabler. It enabled people to connect a different way, virtually, right? So virtually we went all over the world and we connected with people anywhere and everywhere, and the virtual space became very open to public, right? And with the connection from the heart, and I believe, and I personally believe that each and every coaches, especially the life coaches, have the responsibility of helping people to grow significantly, right? and and if we are connected globally and we grow significantly, then we can help others to grow significantly, and it has a ripple effect from one person to another person to all over the world. And there may be somebody in and I was mentioning about remote village in Africa, or remote uh, city in India, or wherever, right? So those people have ambition, goals, and there is people who are struggling out there. And through our coaching network, through our coaches, we can get to that, because our only service that we provide is to help our coaches, help our clients, and help our community to thrive. Do you agree with that, Chiara?
I do. You touched again on some important pieces that I'd like to take in different directions, because we can go in different directions with our conversation, and because it's dynamic and it's rhythmic and it flows. There are some pieces that I want to pick up on, if I may. So, COVID did open a new avenue for connection. It also stopped us in our tracks so that we can reevaluate, what are we doing in our lives? Is it working for us? Is it working for our families? What do we want from life? So, whenever there is a crisis, whether it's a personal one, whether it's a collective one, there is always, as you said, a ripple effect. So, and connection then is different because it makes us stop and evaluate and sit with where we're at and whether or not it's what we want to do, even though it became a habit, perhaps. So the kind of shock of things, even though it's uncomfortable, it does allow us to, and I'm connecting back and weaving to what you said before, understanding the unknown. And the only way to free ourselves from something is A, to find the truth in it, but B is also to know it. Because once you know something, you cannot unknow it.
Mhm.
And so the beauty of technology, when it's used well, is it allows these connections with all of us. And you also touched on something else, which in my mind, I think in pictures. So I see pictures in my head when we talk and describe them. It's the hypnotherapist in me, creative scripting. So what I saw in my head was almost, and they equate this in the tech industry to neural networks. So neural networks are our consciousness connecting to each other globally. And as we do that, we do support our growth and the heart space. And often in adversity, we do find different parts of ourselves that we didn't know existed because we're not in habit. We've been taken out of that. And so there is purpose to adversity, provided we have the support, the resources to work through it. And this is where we come in as life coaches with our clients, with ourselves, with each other. So yes, yes.
Yes, and the essence of all this is a culture that I strongly believe is called we culture. And
Yes.
we, in my belief, is 100%. There is no 99%. There is no 1%, because whenever we mention about 1% or 99%, we divide, we exclude, right? So our goal is inclusivity. Everybody is included, no matter how good you are, how bad you are. We are human being, and the reason is because we as a coach, our coaches, we help people to get out of their boundaries, right? We help them to become better. So if somebody is struggling with their mindset, somebody is struggling to be good person, right? We can help them. So that can be anybody. So, and that is the key to coaching, that we can unfold it in a global level and help people everywhere in this inclusive we culture of 100%. Means we are all together in this, even if we are part of it or if we are not part of it, we are all in this together. So that inclusiveness is what I believe is called care wisdom. And care wisdom that I mentioned in the comment that you may have seen is care wisdom is in the foundation is care, right? So you have to have the care to build that foundation. So it's not, and I mentioned that it's not about capitalism, it's not about socialism, it's not even anyism, but care wisdom. So when you have care, you can build, and the corporations can adopt that 100% mentality, right? And create that care culture. Why we work for somebody else, right? So corporations can build that culture as well. And this is, I think globally, the coaches will play a significant role on this, because the thing is, just think about this. We've been talking about equal opportunity. We've been talking about, like making sure everybody is included, inclusiveness in the corporations. But we've been always focusing on that certain percentage of population. But when you focus on 100%, you eliminate that, right? You include, you become inclusive of 100%. And if that's the mindset we can develop, then you can see that somebody poor in a poor neighborhood can get included in this richness we have all over the world, right? They can be included, so that we mindset can change. And that's what my belief is. Hopefully that is connected, are connecting with what you are thinking, Chiara.
Well, thank you for sharing. I think it's wonderful. There are some things that came to mind. The first thing I want to say is that I do believe that the diversity and inclusion is very important for moving forward as humanity as a collective, and also honoring that each individual does have some individual differences in terms of their culture, where they come from, and I do feel that this is to be revered. And when you touched on the corporations, I like to talk about culture and leadership. Leadership really in an organization is the bone of the culture of an organization. And there is a difference between rhetorically speaking about diversity and inclusion and having the feeling of diversity and inclusion at the individual and collective level. And that's the culture piece. And I think it takes time for change to happen, both in the individual and in the collective. But once you have that wave that has been created, it almost has a life of its own, provided that we have principles and values that are shared and it comes from a heart space. I'm very much a proponent of connecting authentically and attuning, whether you're a leader or whether you're not in a leadership position. And as a leader, attunement really to understanding what resources are required to support, for example, people who have less opportunity because they don't have access to the resources.
Mhm.
We can't have a situation where we make access, but if the individual doesn't have the tools to understand how that relates to them, how they can use it, how they are able to work through some of the past beliefs, which is what you were referring to in your mindset, then it becomes a struggle. It becomes a frustration, so to speak. And obviously, there are individual experiences. We're talking generally. But because of that, then perhaps their ability to fully utilize what's available to them isn't there. So this is why I feel what we do is very important, because we can put things into place in a safe way. When we have heightened trauma or stress and there is a lack of safety, whether it's in a protocol, whether it's in the beliefs of something, whether it's in our own person because of experiences, it's very hard to hold this resource as valuable in our bodies and our minds. So that's really, I feel, an important piece to take into account.
Very well, very nicely said. And as you were discussing about that, and I was thinking that hard-based leadership may be something that we need to adapt. And hard-based leadership is, in a corporate culture, is always been in the past, and we have seen some progression on that, is coming to the level of we are trying to understand what is important to people, because eventually we work with people, right? So in a culture, right, in a culture, we are now going back to, and as you can see after the pandemic, or at the end stage, I am hoping, is now we are realizing that people are not coming back to work, even though the key reason they're coming back to work is that social connection, because they want to be part of the community of their own co-workers, right? So that social connection driving them to come back, not the corporate mandate that you have to come back. Because when you are mandating something, what happens? People decide not to follow, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So and with that said, is that heart-based leadership is possibly the way to go. Because when we understand each other, when we feel for each other and about each other, right, it becomes the center of anything that we do, right? And it moves us forward. So in a corporate environment, if we can have that heart-based leadership, then we know that we are working with people who has real lives, right? And accommodating that real life and opening doors for everybody can create it significantly bigger than we can think. And the biggest beneficiary of this will be everybody.
Mhm.
And when everybody thrive, we thrive. And and it may be coming to a perspective when we are now discussing about mission to moon, so we can go to Mars, and maybe there will be colonizing in Mars someday, right? And maybe moon as well. So then we will be seeing a perspective of human here on Earth and human somewhere else, right? So think about the connection that we have to build with everybody here to go there. So the growth mindset that will come with the heart center approach. I think you are really onto something there.
Well, thank you. I feel like it is a cultivation. And I think in corporate settings, a lot of the ideology, generally speaking, there are individuals who have different ideas, but generally speaking, it is towards the tendency leaning towards heart-based means soft.
Mhm.
But actually, it's not. It's a great strength as a leader to be able to, A, see the people who are working with you for who they are, and knowing their abilities, knowing their strengths, and being able to offer resources to support these strengths so that they can grow within themselves, within the organization. And obviously, the benefits are ripple effect in the sense of microcosm benefit equals macrocosm. If I am connected to the leader in my organization and I feel that this connection is reciprocated, I have more freedom, I have more integrity, I have more truth in what I'm doing, which then affects all the stakeholders, your internal clients, your external clients. So the idea that having a heart-based leadership is soft actually is the opposite. So it definitely is a mindset. And I feel like what you said, we're wired for connection. Our nervous system is wired for connection. If we look at research, we know that the mind, the first part of the brain when a baby is born that begins to develop is the social brain. And there's a reason for that. We learn tone of voice, we learn about eyes, we learn about facial expressions right away. So there's a reason for that. And like you said, people want to go back to the workplace for the social connection and community. And I feel that leadership really needs to begin to understand what that is. It's not just about the bottom line. It's not just about having technical skills, but really, do people that we hire fit with the culture? Are they able to bring diversity of mind and spirit? And I know that's a little esoteric, but we are human beings. We're multidimensional. We are not robots. And so, we need to begin to look at this from a wholesome, holistic perspective so that we can move forward in a different way. And again, for the collective and individual.
Yes. And that era may be also coming when we will be interacting with robots, right? So which is
This is true.
and it's not.
I thought you meant that, the era is coming where we have a heart-based leadership. I'm waiting for that. That'd be fabulous. I teach the connection piece. And,
Yes.
there is the whole aspect of the truth, the integrity, and the freedom that brings. Because once you
Mhm.
have integrity, by the way, as an aside, the Egyptian god Mahat, what she does back in the day in Egyptian times is that they used to weigh the heart.
Mhm.
Somebody had passed away, they would weigh the heart. And if the heart was light as a feather, they wouldn't come back for another life because they had been in their truth and integrity this lifetime. But if it was a heavy heart, they'd come back. So Mahat, she was designated the deity of looking to see how much integrity you have in the heart. I thought that was a sweet little aside piece. But yes, I'm waiting to see what happens. But yeah, the robots are going to be interesting. I think there's much that needs to happen, and I think building integrity and the heart space for humans, I think at this point is very important. So
Yes. And that with the technological advances, and we will see things, and maybe not even our lifetime, but the advancement that will happen with robotics and other things that we are talking about, and we are seeing some of the glimpses and pieces here and there. Like you go to a grocery store and you see a robot taking inventory now, or you go to a restaurant and there is a robot that is serving you food. So that's the beginning of a different era, right? So the heart center approach and how robotics works in that is going to be something to experience, because we as a human being, and you mentioned that we are not robots. We have feelings and all kind of other things that come in, and robots can have that too, but there's a difference, and that's the difference that eventually we will have to understand. And as we discuss about care wisdom, is we will find a completely different world that we will be living in, where care is now almost robotic, right? Because just imagine that life for a second. And in that life where everything is done by robots and we are just enjoying life, can you believe that? How that can change the society and how that can change what we do every single day. So with that said, you know, today's world, come back to today's world and where we are right now, is we have a role to play, and we have a global role to play on bringing people together and having a one mindset of love, right? One mindset of love is, yes, we are diverse, we are different, we have and we've been through, over history and over time, we've been through that many years, right? We had a struggle of South Africa, we have seen a struggle in US, we have seen a lot of struggle in all over the world, and we are still seeing some struggle in Eastern Europe, Ukraine, right? So it's the dominance of global mindset that we have to eventually shift towards love and shift towards we culture, where we include everybody. And by building that, I know there is a lot of politics, there is a lot of things involved, but at some point we have to stop and start thinking about what is the future going to look like, right? And we have learned through history and we have learned through a lot of lessons, but we continue to do things differently. So at some point, and I think that's why the global connectivity of our global connection of coaches is important, because as we grow, we can change the world, because we come from the completely different mindset. The coaches come from a completely different mindset, and we have seen over time how coaching have changed. We have psychological background, we have philosophical background, we combine both theory and apply it to a level that now this can be a powerful tool. Do you agree with that, Chiara?
I do. I thank you. I have some points to weave in, if I may.
Mm-hmm.
I do feel that when technology is used well, it can be very helpful to society. I feel also that keeping the understanding that, technology is there to support us, it's not there to replace us. And, the difference between technology and a human being is that we do have a heart. So, and we have connection to what could be termed the soul. I don't want to go into things that are individual, so we're not going to go down there too much, but, we have experience. So I feel it's important for us to differentiate that and bring that into our discussion so that we can put it into place. And I do feel that the more that we move forward, we as individuals are changing, provided we embrace our differences, we embrace that having a difference of mind. I don't want to talk about opinion, because opinion is something that could be termed superficial. Anyone can have an opinion, but a true feeling embedded in your heart, a knowing, is different. And so expressing a knowing, because it's felt, is very different to an opinion. And this I really wanted to touch on, because it's a big topic, if you want it to be, is the thinking versus the being. We can't be without doing and thinking. But at the same time, if we train ourselves, and I mean that in the most heartfelt way, with discipline and focus, our minds can be our ally or our foe. And therefore, the doing and the being begins to change. So I think as coaches, what we're here to do is to disentangle the knowns, the beliefs, those things that are holding us back from doing and being in a new way, a way that might seem uncomfortable at the beginning, but then it becomes comfortable as we get used to the process. And as we do that as an individual, it becomes collective. And then our needs, our wants, the way that we view things will begin to change the landscape of the economy. Will begin to change the landscape of, if we want to go down that route, the political situation. So as a collective, we're very powerful by using our minds well. So I hope that that gives my perspective on what we were talking about before. It's a big topic. It can go in any direction.
Yes, and as you can tell that we are having so much fun discussing that, that our half an hour time is almost over. So
Yes.
with that said, Chiara, it's fantastic to have you here. And what we are starting here is a new journey. A
Yes.
new journey towards the care wisdom and towards the we culture. And in that mindset, we want to open doors. We want to reach the impossible. So one of the key things that you mentioned about unknown, getting comfortable with unknown is where the creativity come in place, where you open up
You
to
expand. Yeah.
expand, exactly, and impossible, right? Achieve great things. So fantastic. And with that said, our session is ending today, but I look forward to seeing you next month and continue our conversation in this area. And thank you very much, Chiara, for joining me. And with that said, to everybody, let's get connected.
Yes. Well, thank you, Dr. Milu. It was absolutely a pleasure to be here. I look forward to next month. I'll see you soon.
Okay, take care. Bye-bye.
Bye.